Okay, our next guest is going to be Timothy Fenton. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Thank you so much for joining us, Tim. Just a little bit of background for everybody. The first two guests we had were Aggies, right? But also they were continued. They worked both. Either they left and come back or stayed here in the Valley. Both Adams Wealth and Cash Valley Bank are here in the Valley. But there's tons of opportunity outside of the Valley to consider as well. So Timothy Fenton was an Aggie, but then, as mentioned, he went off and got his MBA at the Booth School of Business in Chicago. After, I believe you worked for Goldman Sachs for a few years before that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so after working Goldman Sachs, then went to Chicago Booth, and he's now. Have you officially started at Boston? Or are you still inbound?
I'm starting on Monday.
Starting on. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
we got him before his schedule is completely eaten up. So please have some questions for it. Tim, I'm just going to let you go ahead and get started.
Cool. I'm going to try to share my screen. In consulting, you have to have slides, so I have a couple slides here. We'll see.
I'm expecting at least one for grid.
Y'all can see this?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So I'll just jump in. So a little overview of the consulting industry. I'm going to kind of start basic and then just dive into my personal experience. So consulting industry is huge. It's like a professional services. So basically what consultants will do is, if a firm or business is maybe struggling or has a question or wants to make a large change and they feel like they don't have, the right resources to do it or the right know-how, oftentimes they'll bring in like external employees to kind of help for a brief period of time. And so as you can see, like consulting runs kind of across tons of different functions, tons of different industries, and it's a huge industry. So I think like most of kind of what I see is like around like the market size is around 250 billion. So just really big. And then I think the other kind of big takeaway is there's so many different types of consulting firms, both large and small. So I'm kind of focusing on large ones because that's where I'm at. But there are tons of small firms. There are tons of freelance consultants, lots of people who have had really successful business careers, and then they retire and just do consulting on the side. So there's lots of different options and opportunities for for all of you if you have different interests. So if we just kind of hone in on some of those large firms, I just wanted to introduce you to some of the different firms in the space. So there's three kind of large strategy ones, names you guys should probably should know. So McKinsey, BCG, which is where I'm working, and then Bain. They're all very big and focus on kind of strategy work. And then the four main accounting firms, so they all have really large consulting practices, and they go across all different functions. And then other firms, these are kind of broad generalizations, but this is just to kind of give you a sense of what's out there, just so you have an idea. So across these firms, like I'll just call out a few. So Bridgespan Group in the bottom right there, they do nonprofit consulting. IBM, which I think is like a name we usually don't associate with consulting, but they have a huge digital consulting practice. Accenture was like the consulting branch of Arthur Andersen, the accounting firm that broke off. So there's just tons of different firms, but like ZS, they do mostly healthcare consulting. So kind of whatever your area of interest is, I know like most of these speakers today are in finance, but kind of anywhere in the business world, wherever your area of interest is, there's firms that just do like econ consulting or even financial services consulting as well. So there's something for everybody in the consulting world. So this is just kind of broadly things people talk about either loving or hating about consulting jobs. So the advantages: travel. People, you're usually traveling like Monday through Thursday, so you get to see a lot of cool places, meet interesting people. There's a lot of variety in the work. So like I've sat in so many consulting career sessions like this. Somebody will ask a question and then they'll say, well, it depends. It always depends. The answer always depends on the project you're on, in terms of what the experience is like. And some people like that, some people hate it, but you do get tons of variety in the work that you're doing. So that sort of leads to the next point: lots of career growth, lots of exposure to senior leaders who are making important business decisions. You kind of have a seat at the table, and that leads to lots of, organic exit opportunities. So what's common is people will, do consulting for 2 to 4 years, and then they'll have a really good project, really connect with somebody at the client, and then take a job, at that firm. So that's a really kind of common way to exit out of consulting. But there's tons of different opportunities that way. So compensation. So usually, since you're sort of meeting like a specific need, these firms can charge a little bit more than what a company would pay just to have their own, traditional employees do it. And so usually the pay in consulting is a little bit higher than like if you took the basically relevant, kind of same job in industry. Usually the consultant will make just a tiny bit more. And then there's lots of, free flights and free dinner and stuff like that, fringe benefits. Disadvantages, so travel, lots of people love travel, lots of people hate it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Oftentimes, consultants will work long hours. There's like, stressful deadlines. It can be demanding. And then sort of the flip side of the variety of work is you have a lot of volatility in your lifestyle. So sometimes it's hard to plan, when you have time off, or what your project's going to be like. The joke they say at BCG is like never quit on your first bad project. Like people wait for the second bad project, because anytime you're stuck in a really bad project, you're like, oh, this is terrible, I want to leave. And then you get a great one and you're like, what was I thinking? So, and then also it can be, the recruiting process can sometimes beat you down a little bit. I put over index on pedigree here, not to discourage anybody, but just if you're interested in consulting, maybe to sort of be aware of, you want to kind of try to beef up your resume. If there's anything you can raise your hand for, kind of take something extra, just to try to do that. So for people interested in recruiting and consulting, these are kind of the 3 important factors. So networking, you can reach out to people who are interested, who are working at the firm you're interested in, and then I mentioned kind of beefing up your resume. And then casing. So the interviews for consulting are a little bit different than a traditional employment interview. They give you like a business problem and kind of ask you to solve it, to try to get a better sense of like the way you think. It's totally something that can be learned. Just with, like anything, a little practice goes a long way there. But those are kind of the 3 points to focus on if you have an interest in consulting. So I don't know how we're doing here. I thought I'd just share real briefly kind of my experience at BCG. So I was there last summer. So I was working with a big retailer. They've kind of identified they're in a little bit of trouble, and they hired BCG to try to come in and help. So we had 2 different goals. So one was to save them a bunch of money in the next 2 years. And then the other was to sort of redefine their business model, because their legacy business model isn't really relevant. And so we had these different work streams. So TMO, that's like the transformation office. That's where I was sitting, but we did, all sorts of things for them, helping with pricing. They had a reorganization they were doing, kind of their long-term strategy, like I mentioned. And then, all kinds of areas of the business. And so this sort of showcases like some of the volatility and different exposure you can get in just a short amount of time in consulting. And so then my specific project, so I was working with the transformation group, and I was in charge of analyzing their store hours and trying to optimize those. And so I was working really close with the head of store operations for North America and kind of looking at each store. And like a lot of it's just processing data. They had transaction data across thousands of stores, and just trying to make projections and look at where their closest competitors are. And whether it makes sense to stay open or not stay open. And then we sort of made a recommendation, and then we rolled it out across 40 stores, and that was really successful. And then we rolled it out company-wide. And so, net impact is $12 million a year, which, it sounds really big, but I think it kind of showcases like the types of opportunities that are available in consulting. So it's just exciting. Like this isn't like out of the ordinary. There's BCG runs really lean teams. And each kind of consultant is having like lots of impact and just working on kind of cool things. So I can nerd out about it all day, but yeah, that's a little bit about it. I know that was really quick, but if anybody has questions, we can kind of open it up.
Hi, Tim. Oh, wait, is there somebody else?
Go right ahead.
Let me make sure my video's on. Tim, hey, thank you so much for going over that. That was a lot of really good information. Just really quick, so going over networking, resume, and casing a little bit, what was your path to BCG? Was it traditional or non-traditional? And can you kind of go through that process, and then maybe talk about a day in the life of a consultant, maybe when compared to investment banking?
Yeah, so my path was pretty traditional. So I was a student in Chicago at a school that BCG commonly, hires from, and so they came on campus and did a presentation, and then we went went out for drinks after, and like it was kind of easy to form relationships. But the process is like pretty similar, I would say, for anybody that's interested. It's pretty easy using like LinkedIn or alumni database at USU to find people that work at firms that you're interested in, and then just reaching out. I think you'll find people are usually pretty willing to jump on a 15-minute call and just kind of chat about it. So for the networking side, that's what I would recommend. A day in the life. So yeah, like I was saying, this is classic. Like it really depends. Because it does change a ton. So like I think about last summer, I had days where I was on site at stores talking with store managers or kind of looking at things that way. A lot of it was like, I guess in the morning, like a traditional day would be you kind of meet with your team. Sometimes in the morning, you'll have like a meeting with, a team at the client. So for us, that was like the chief transformation officer. And then he had like 3 people that was kind of working under him. So we would meet with them like twice a week and kind of discuss what initiatives were on our mind and what they were thinking about, and just kind of align on things. And then you have like kind of your individual work stream, and you just have complete ownership of it. So if you just need to sit down, for a few hours and crank something out, then you can do that. Otherwise, it's like setting up meetings with people at the client, sitting down and reviewing a deck with your boss, and just kind of aligning on things before a presentation. Anything. Like when I started, I kind of wanted to go into a few stores and just kind of get familiar with what BCG was doing. And so, I scheduled that and went and did it. Like you have a lot of kind of control over your own schedule and your own project, which I think sometimes can be really good. Sometimes it's a little tough. You need to be proactive and kind of reach out to people if you are stuck or have questions or anything. But otherwise, you're just kind of running your own thing. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. Big time.
I know we had some other questions. Again, Tim's contact information, it's not only in the chat, but if you notice, he also put it right there on the screen. So feel free to reach out to Tim. Tim, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here.